Hey everyone, good to see you all. Let me know if you can hear me all right. We'll just wait for a few more people to show up and then we'll get started. How's it going, Josh? How's it going, AS? Yang, Raul, how's it going? Justin. Awesome, you guys can hear me all right. Perfect. And let me know if the screen's blurry at all and all of that, just so everything's good to go. Hey Frank, how's it going? That's a good question, Ikram. So he asked me, can I start with the overall market? I would definitely suggest go ahead and check out my stock market outlook video. I go through all the details in my routine and how I view the markets in there. So yeah, go ahead and check out that video. Maybe somebody can help me out and post a link to that in the comments. That would be awesome. And before we get started, if you don't mind, please go ahead and leave a like on the video. It really helps out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll get started in just a second. We've got 35 people in here already, which is awesome. And we'll get going in just a few minutes. But in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer those before I really get into the meat of things. Yeah, well, I like live sessions too. I'll try to do more kind of regular Sunday sessions. I think it's really fun to interact with you guys directly. And yeah, it's a little bit more interesting as well. Oh, from Australia, awesome. Hey Roberto, how's it going? Yeah, John, I'll be talking about a few different types of setups. Definitely stocks near a pivot is something that I look for. A lot of stocks moved on Friday, so there's not too many right near the kind of optimal buy point, but there's definitely some that could retest them. If we go over to one of the stocks on my focus list is AMAT, had a nice breakout, but if it retests this pivot or this 124.50 pivot, I'll be looking to establish a position. It's a good risk reward spot to get in. John, I do not trade for a living. I'm currently a grad student at the University of Maryland studying mechanical engineering and machine learning. Awesome. So we got 50 people in here. I guess we'll get going. And let me open up my kind of focus list area here. And overall, these are kind of the 15 stocks that are on my focus list, which means these are the primary ones that I'm watching this week. Not all of them are set up perfectly. AMAT, as I mentioned, already broke out on this past Friday, but I will be watching for a potential retest, some other type of setup to kind of work my way into that stock because I do think it's a leader. And also, I think the overall semiconductor theme is quite strong as well. I've also got LRCX, which also had a nice move on Friday on this list as well. So we'll start off with the first stock, which is ABNB. This has been on my watch list for a couple times. Hey, Greg, how's it going? Hope you're not too tired from all your practice today. I know you just got back. But yeah, getting into it, we've got ABNB. I'm watching for a potential double bottom here if it does undercut this low. And also I'm watching for a potential retest of this IPO base. It's right before this pivot, which is at 174.97, I believe. If we go over to this high, yep, 97. So I'm also watching for a retake of that pivot, as well as this high. That's another potential pivot right near 180. So that's in terms of technical analysis. That's how I'm viewing this stock. It's a little bit messy here. It's a recent IPO, a little bit tough to trade, but I like how this pullback, this most recent pullback, has been on below average volume, and I think Marketsmith does a good job of highlighting that. And by the way, this live stream is sponsored by Marketsmith. I think it's a great piece of software, and I use it every single day to look up stocks. Looking over at the fundamental side of things, there's not too many great growth metrics here. Not really that earnings sales growth that I like to see. The estimates aren't strong, but what really stands out to me is over here, we've already got 585 funds investing into this recent IPO that just came public in December. And on top of that, we have 6 already top flagship funds from IBD. And that just really stands out to me. Only like the top stocks get this many funds. And it's amazing that such a recent IPO already has this number. So that's really what draws my eye here. And these funds are going to support the stock at those logical points like previous pivots, undercuts, and rallies. So we'll see what happens next week. But overall, this is definitely high up on my list. Joshy says it's slightly blurry. Let me know in the comments section if you guys are having problems here. I believe it should be okay. Maybe check your own personal settings here. It looks to me like I'm actually recording in 1080p. So yeah, let me know. But yeah, this volume is logarithmic. Thanks for pointing that out. I think that's a great way to kind of see volume and all of that. Cool. So let me go on to the next stock, which is AMAT. And we can see here that it already broke out through this pivot on Friday. But I'm watching for a potential inside day here, retest, and I'll be looking to establish a position, especially if this pullback inside day is on below average volume. That's a great place to get in. And this one does have those great growth metrics, fantastic earnings growth, sales growth, after-tax margins, great estimates for 2021, 2022 strong as well. Composite rating 99, can't complain about that. And all of these are very strong because the semiconductor group in general, the equipment group, is 24 out of 197. So it's always good to have kind of top leading stocks in the top 40 groups here. And you've got very strong increasing fund ownership and 2 high quality funds in there as well. Yeah, this was on my focus list this past week. I missed it on Friday, a nice strong move, 2-2 reversal. But yeah, it looks great volume coming in as well. And we'll see what happens with this overall group. Yeah, thanks for everybody. I'm glad to do the live focus list. I see some great comments here. Great to have you all here. Please go ahead and leave a like down below. It really does help me out. And yeah, we'll keep going with Box, which I think is an interesting company. And overall, the computer software database group has been pretty strong. So overall, great growth in terms of earnings, sales, all of that. Decent estimates for 2022, 2023. Not blowout estimates, but the revisions are up. The composite rating is an 84. Which is okay, but you've got nice increasing fund ownership, but no high quality funds, unfortunately, invested into this company. And as for the chart, you can see it broke out this past week, had a very wide range bar here on the largest volume ever, and now has pulled back gently to the pivot, a pretty good risk reward spot. You've got an inside day on this past Friday, which means that this high is lower than the previous day's high, and this low is higher. Basically, on a shorter time frame, if we actually go to a 30-minute chart, you've got some type of volatility contraction. So this is kind of the past 2 days. You've got some type of VCP action happening on a lower time frame. So often that's a pretty good spot, especially near an overall pivot and in an overall good sound base structure. An inside day is a decent spot to get into a stock if it confirms to the upside through this high. And you've also got some other pivots here as well. Oh, we got a good question here from Patel. How do you compare Box to DBX? Yeah, let's actually bring that up because I was deciding between both of them for this focus list. I decided to put Box on here just because I like the overall chart a little bit better. If we go to a monthly, it's closer to all-time highs. It looks a little bit stronger. The volume on the up day is a little bit better. It's a longer term base versus if we go to DBX, let's bring that up here and go to a monthly. It's still in this kind of longer term primary base, pretty far from all-time highs. And this one still looks good. It's got great earnings and sales as well, near the pivot. So they're kind of trading in tandem. I'll also be watching this one, slightly better estimates as well. So I'll probably be watching both, whichever kind of breaks out first, I'll probably take. And you've also got Fidelity Contra Fund in here as well. So there's things to like about both of them. I think I like the overall price action of Box a little bit better, but Dropbox does seem to have slightly better fundamentals and growth numbers, and great growth in fund ownership here as well. So I think both of them are solid ones to watch, and we'll see what happens next week. Hey Mo, how's it going? Yeah, any questions, let me know along the way, and otherwise we'll just keep on chugging and keep on going with DraftKings. So this one's getting a lot of hype because of March Madness, obviously. It's right back near the base pivot after this kind of low volume pivot. There is one above average volume day, but for the most part, this is on low relative volume, and it did find nice support at the 50 SMA above 60, and I'm watching for a retake of this pivot, retake of the 64.78 pivot, and we'll see if you can challenge and retake that 21 EMA as well. As for the fundamentals, not the greatest numbers here because obviously it's not profitable, but the sales growth is improving. Sales growth at 146% is very strong. It's not supposed to be profitable within the next 2 years in 2021 or 2022. The comms rating is only 71, so not the greatest here. But the fund ownership, like with ABNB, really stands out to me, going from 17 funds to 526 and having 6 high quality funds in there as well. So all things being equal, I like seeing the fund ownership here. Sales growth is good enough for me. And we've seen a lot of stocks do well that aren't yet profitable. So we'll see how this works out. It's been a little bit choppy this past few weeks, but it was showing a lot of RS like early on in the kind of growth correction. So maybe when the NASDAQ finally follows through, retakes the 50 and 21, we'll see this one really outperform once again. It's got an overall RS rating of 91, so pretty decent, although the RS line is decreasing recently because of the strength of the SPX. Sid asked a great question. Thoughts on UI? In my view, it's one of the potential new leaders. I'll actually bring up that list right now. So I've got a list running through the kind of potential stocks that could lead in the next uptrend. UI, very strong breakout here on Friday on huge volume. If it does form some inside days and form a good low risk entry setup, I'll look to enter this one as well. Just at this moment, it's pretty extended from a proper low risk buy point. So that's why I don't have it on this list, but definitely I'll be watching this every single day. And in fact, I think it's a great gauge of the overall market. If this is able to consolidate nicely, follow through even to the upside, that's a great sign for growth in general, especially if the overall market follows through. So UI, a great stock. I've had it on the watch list before after this earnings gap up. Did well, found support, undercut the 50 here, retook it. Nice move here, support the 50, near the 50. And yeah, a great setup last week if you're able to take it. We've got a question from Ashwin. What is the tool that I have? This is TC2000, and I use this in tandem with Marketsmith here to basically find top stocks and also right down to the minute looking at the intraday charts to enter positions. And I see a lot of people asking about my thoughts on different stocks. I'm going to be covering my focus list, and then at the end, I'll ask for ticker symbols, and we'll go through as many charts as you guys want. Cool. So let's keep on going. Let's start with GM. This isn't really a traditional growth company. It's been around for a long time, as I'm sure all of you guys know, but it's got a little bit of resurgence here. Great earnings this past quarter. Decent estimates for 2021 and 2022. It was handling the correction very well. We do have this unfortunate downside reversal on higher volume, which is one kind of knock against the stock, but it found support at the 50 and is back near the pivot. So I'm looking to potentially enter the stock if it breaks through that high and that pivot again on above average volume. Fund ownership increasing and Fidelity Contra Fund with a position as well. So overall, a little bit of a slower mover, but it's good to have a few of those in your portfolio to balance out those volatile IPOs. All right, HOLX. Moving on to this one, we've got fantastic earnings and sales the past 2 quarters, really. Margins very, very strong as well. Estimates for 2021 off the charts, up 124%. The revisions are down for this year, which is one knock against it. And in 2022, it's actually supposed to give back quite a bit of that annual EPS gains. But still, great estimates for 2021, and we'll see what happens with 2022. Overall comms rating very strong at a 97. Increasing fund ownership and Fidelity Contra Fund with a position, which is always good. And at this moment, if we go to a weekly, you can see it's basing against this key level here. If we go to back to a daily, I'm looking to potentially play this pivot right here, set a stop potentially at yesterday's low or that low of the day, and see if we can retake the 50 and challenge these kind of highs here at 85. It is within a stage 1 base here. It's kind of a bunch of stage 1s connected together. And the RS rating isn't great, but I like the fundamentals. And recently it's been showing a little bit of RS here against the 200-day, but we'll see what happens. And moving on, we've got InMode, which I played way back when it was an IPO here. It was a great stock. Then it went into this longer term primary base. And just recently it's been able to break above it, form a little bit of a structure here. So going to a daily, You can see that it's formed a little bit of something here and pulled back to the 50-day moving average. Found support there last week, and we'll see if it can move up from here, retake the 21. I'm looking to enter if it potentially retakes that 21 or moves up above these pivots right here, these highs. And overall, looking at the numbers, great earnings this past quarter. And you can see decent estimates for 2021, 2022. Overall comms rating is 96. Nice growth in fund ownership and one high quality fund invested as well. Moving on, we've got LRCX, another semiconductor equipment stock, and overall great growth numbers here. Earnings, sales, very strong in the past few quarters. Great estimates for 2021, up 57%. Revisions up as well. Comms rating a very strong 99. Group RS rating is an A. That's very important. And an increase in fund ownership and 5 high quality funds in there as well. And this one broke through a couple pivots here off the 50 on Friday and this spot as well. So this would have been kind of the ideal buy point here on Friday against the 50. Pretty low risk. And then you also had the more traditional pivot here on as it moved through the high of Wednesday. However, it's still below all-time highs, so that could be another potential pivot. I ideally would like to see it kind of form some inside days, go sideways here below 600, form another pivot. Then once it breaks through that on volume, that's when I would set up a position using the low of the day as my potential stop. Moving on, we've got Lyft. And if we go to a weekly here, it is below all-time highs, so keep that in mind. It's within this kind of longer-term primary base, but it's shown a lot of RS recently, and it's right near this kind of point of resistance and consolidating a little bit. Nice tail on this past weekly bar. And if we go back to a daily, you can see it's consolidating and finds support above 60. Maybe it consolidates for a few more weeks here and then moves up, but I think it's acting well. This pullback is on below average volume, and overall the RS rating is strong at 97. RS line has been very strong even while the rest of the growth space has been hit pretty hard. This one survived, found support at the 50, bounced up, and it's just moving up out of a stage 1 cup here with a standard pivot 41.19, advancing well, obeying the key moving averages. And if we go to Uber here, it looks a lot better than Uber, although this is forming a stage 2 consolidation and definitely worth watching as well, especially with all the high quality funds invested into this stock. So that's a bit about Lyft and Uber. And next up, we've got Roblox. I'm going to pause for just a second to see if we've got any questions here. Hello from Indonesia. Awesome. Yeah, Uber, we just went over it. We'll talk about Futsu in just a bit, TGH as well. But for now, let's keep on going, and we'll go with Roblox, which is a recent IPO, accelerating sales growth the past few quarters. Not yet profitable. After-tax margins are negative, but you've got good estimates for 2021 and 2022. And you can see the comms rating is very poor at 22. EPS rating is only a 4. That's not great. And overall, this isn't really in a top group. Computer software gaming is only 172. So that's one knock against it. And there's no fund information just yet. So this is very new. These IPO bases aren't for everybody, but I'm looking to potentially position. If it pulls back to this high volume close from that first IPO day, that could be a potential level to play against, as well as, of course, this pivot at this high, which is at 79.10, which would be the kind of standard IPO based pivot. Or if it pulls back, tightens up here, forms some inside days, and then moves up, that would be ideal. So that is Roblox. Definitely a promising IPO that I'm watching. And yeah, we'll see what happens. It fared this correction recently pretty well. And yeah, moving on, we've got SI, which is a very choppy stock. Once again, this is not for everybody. This is extremely volatile with pretty wide ranges, but it is finding support at its 15 moving average. And you can see it's forming a little bit of consolidation here. It's very sloppy, but overall the RS rating is 99. This is a kind of a crypto-related stock, so it's kind of riding those tailwinds, and overall has very strong earnings. Estimates for 2021, 2022, very strong as well. Nice growth in fund ownership and 2 high-quality funds in there as well. So definitely a promising stock, but once again, know what you're trading, know kind of your own style and what kind of volatility you can handle. I'm potentially looking for a reclaim of the 50 or a breakout through this high, or potentially some inside days here and then a breakout. I would love to see it tighten up above that 50-day moving average. That would be ideal. Cool. So next up, we've got SLQT. This is also on my list this past week. It did get knocked down, but it is within that kind of turbulent zone from the life cycle trade. So it's kind of to be expected here. And it is forming a little bit of a structure here, pulling back against the 10-week and 50 SMA. So overall, looks great. Great earnings and sales the past 3 quarters. Estimates for 2021, great at 83%. Revisions up as well. Further growth is expected in 2022, up 48%. Comms rating is a 71. Not the greatest, but overall, I think it's being hurt by the RS rating of the group. And overall, the insurance brokers group isn't too strong as well. And I think Matt Caruso actually talked about this one in his recent IBD podcast, which I highly recommend you guys watch. They mentioned a bunch of great stuff over trading, and this was one of the stocks that Matt chose to talk about. So definitely worth a listen. Overall, an increase in fund ownership and one high quality fund in there as well. So that's a good sign. And the 200-day moving average just popped up, which is something I watch for when a stock is in its overall kind of first primary base and still building out a structure. So looks pretty good, and we'll see what happens next week. It is a little bit volatile here, so maybe moves up, tightens up, pulls back below 30, and then breaks out. That would be something that I would watch and would be really ideal to form a really tighter structure here and then break out through that. Moving on, we've got Sono, which showed a lot of RS here really since this huge earnings breakout here. Rode that 21 EMA, found support here, here, and here again, and now is pulling back and broke through that key moving average for the first time and is potentially finding support near that 50-day SMA area. I am also watching this gap, whether it will kind of pull back to fill that. But overall, nice numbers, earnings, sales, very strong. Estimates for 2022, up 23%. Composite rating is a 95. Increase in fund ownership and one high-quality fund in there as well. And definitely from just the price action, there's something going on here. And this stock looks very, very strong to me. So last on the list, I believe, actually, we got 2 more. We've got Wayfair. This is in a longer-term base here. This one has a standard pivot of 369.00, but if we go to a weekly, you can see it's really been just basing since this point, and this high is at 349.08. So a couple of pivots there to play against, and you've also got a more intermediate pivot at either this high or this one as well. So a couple places to potentially buy the breakout, and also found nice support at the 21 EMA recently. Nice growth in earnings, sales the past few quarters. Estimates for 2021 are down 48%, but it's supposed to pick right back up in 2022, up 103%, and the revisions are up as well. Composite rating is a 78, so not great. Increase in fund ownership and 4 high-quality funds in there as well. So a nice longer-term base here. Great if you're a kind of longer-term position trader, investor. This is really a great spot to accumulate stock if this is a company that you're interested in. And lastly, we've got ZI. This has been pretty volatile and a tough one to trade, especially if you're buying on strength. But if you're buying pullbacks to the 50, it's been decent. It is showing a little bit of RS recently, but on this Friday, it definitely had a kind of negative downside reversal, although it was on lower volume than the strong upside reversal day, and it did find support at the 50. So I'm looking for potentially some inside days and then a confirm up through near this pivot at 53.08. And like SLQT, it's right near its kind of turbulent zone, with this high being pretty significant and this one as well. And it is having trouble with 60. So we'll kind of see what happens here. But overall, that is kind of my focus list. We'll see what happens. I am looking to increase exposure here. And we'll see which one of these holds up the best next week and which one kind of follows through. We'll see, especially if the semiconductor stocks can really do quite well. So that's kind of it for my focus list. And now I guess I'll take any questions or any stocks you guys want me to go over. I'd be happy to do that as well. And thank you guys all for sticking with me. And remember to leave a like down below in the video. That'd be awesome. And I guess we'll start with, I know we've got some questions about Futu. So let's go ahead and take a look at that chart. So overall, it has already gone quite a long way, and there is some signs of kind of climax type action. Now, is this the climax top? We'll really know when it finally resolves itself, but it has decreased from 204 all the way down to 100. So basically a cut in half. I do not want to be holding a stock when it does that. And it is below that 50 SMA. So recently, even though its RS rating is 99, it's been showing distribution. And recently it has found support around 100. So if it can really form out here, retake this low, and form out this base, then I would potentially get interested as it forms this right side, maybe buy near consolidation here as it confirms the upside. But for me, this needs to form out more, form a nice low risk entry before I would look to buy this stock, just because this is a pretty significant correction. It's going to need time to play out and set up constructively once again. Let's see. We've got some other stocks here. We've got CCIV. That's a SPAC, I believe. SPACs are not my specialty. Looking just technically here, this has a huge gap down. It's been more than cut in half, basically cut in 1/3. And even though the RS rating is 93, once again, like Futsu, this needs significant time before I would consider buying this. And I don't actually know what was this a SPAC that was supposed to merge with Lucid and that fell through? Could be, but regardless, I think just technically based on supply and demand, I won't be looking at this stock. Yeah, let's talk about UPSD. That's a great suggestion, Silvertrap. Awesome. So here we go. This is definitely one of the strongest stocks in the market. This is one of the ones on my potential new leaders list. And it really all starts here from this huge earnings gap up 89% on this day. Volume up over 1,000%. This is not your Aunt Sally and Kathy, whatever you want to say, buying here. This is institutions buying, and they've supported it. They had follow-through days the day after and the day after that. Then we did have a negative reversal, but we have found support near this kind of 105 level, as well as the high volume close off the earnings gap up day. So if you were kind of a faster, more advanced trader, you could have bought it intraday here as it moved back through this kind of fish hook pivot here. And then it confirmed to the upside on this Friday. So definitely for me, it needs to tighten up and form a little bit of a structure, pull back, let the moving averages catch up again. And then I would be interested. But definitely this is a stock on my radar. I'll be watching this every single day. And kind of like the UI, AMATs, this is a good stock to gauge kind of institutional risk appetite, just because it's a recent breakout to all-time highs. So we'll see what happens. Great estimates for 2021. Can't get really better than this. 2022, strong as well. Comms rating in 94. One high-quality fund and already 48 funds invested into the stock. So we'll see what happens. It's got a lot of momentum. RS rating 98. And yeah, definitely one that I'm watching overall. Oh, hey Dennis, how's it going? Yeah, IR. I saw you tweeting about that. Let's go ahead and look at that. You definitely have a bunch of pivots here. Looks pretty good. This is a stage 2 flat base. Not explosive earnings, decent earnings. Very strong sales, 43% earnings, 149% sales. Strong estimates for 2021, 2022. Increase in fund ownership and for high quality funds. So nothing to complain about. In terms of fundamentals, it's not really in a traditional growth space, but obviously that's been working at this moment. And it looks like this could be kind of an infrastructure play. And you've also got the kind of half Livermore level here. It's right below 50. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it looks pretty good technically, and I'll add this to my list. It looks good. Let's see, what are things we got? We have, let's talk about Yeti. That's a good one. I believe that's in a longer term base, if I remember correctly. Yep, it's in a nice stage 2 flat base, standard pivot 80.89. Retook the 50 on Friday. It looks pretty good there. Nice growth estimates, not estimates here, growth numbers the past 2 quarters. Estimates are decent, 15% and 70% the next 2 years. Comms rating 88. Nice increase in fund ownership. I love seeing that, and 3 high quality funds. So fundamentally pretty good. Nice longer term base, and we'll see if we can form out here, challenge this intermediate pivot, and then potentially these all-time highs around 80. And let's take a look at the weekly, just to get an overall perspective. And actually, let's even go to the monthly here. So this would have been a great spot to kind of start accumulating here if you were interested in the stock around 40. And it's definitely in a nice stage 2 uptrend at this point. Right near all-time highs. Supply and demand characteristics look good. And yeah, looks pretty good from here. I like the longer-term base. and the numbers definitely speak for themselves. Those are very, very strong. Hey Jason, we actually just went over UPST, so I guess you can rewatch this. This will be saved on my channel, so you can go back and rewatch that if you want to. Dark Arts recommends RH. Yeah, definitely. Let's go ahead and check out that stock. This is once again one of the stocks on my potential new leaders list. Very strong breakout on this Friday, and going back to Marketsmith, it actually had kind of a setup day here, right below all-time highs because it retook this pivot here off the 21 EMA. Great volume on both Thursday and Friday. This is the largest volume since the base. And even though this isn't highlighted as a base structure, I would view this as a nice constructive consolidation. Nice volume on the right side of this base too. I love seeing that. And very strong off this 411.88 swing low. So yeah, this looks great. Estimates for 2022 are up 15%. Revisions up as well. Comps rating is 98. Increase in fund ownership and 2 high quality funds in there as well. Great fundamentals. Definitely a lot of people who I've been talking to are looking to improve their housing, buy new furniture, all of that. So there's definitely a nice theme here. And you can see that from the overall group, retail home furnishings. And this kind of goes with Wayfair in that kind of same theme. Yeah, we've got a question here. So for RH, would you wait for a pullback and curl up? Yeah, that's how I'd play this. So I missed the pivot, but that doesn't mean you miss the stock. There'll always be other setups. You do not want to chase up here where it's kind of very likely that it'll pull back at some point. There will be some times where it consolidates inside days, pulls back, let the moving averages move up, and then potentially play the bounce off that moving average. That's kind of how I would play it. Wait for that pullback. I think Ross always talks about this stat, 40% of breakouts retest the pivot. So never kind of succumb to FOMO. There always will be points to get into a stock if you really want to. If this thing is going to 1,000, there will be 1 or 2 or even 3 more buy points that are good, low risk, high reward entries to get into the stock. Yeah, Dark Arts has a great question here. So he asks, mind speaking a bit more about how volume gives confluence to your analysis? I know Oliver said in his interview, volume confirms the move. Is there much more to it than that? I think volume adds conviction to whatever happens. And what I mean by that is a breakout on volume like this says to me that institutions are involved with that breakout and are accumulating stock there. And that's because you or I, or really all of FinTwit, we don't move enough capital. We don't have enough capital to really move a stock sustainably for a long duration or buy this many shares of a almost $600 stock. That's significant capital. And the big guys at the funds and institutions, they have that kind of buying power to move a stock like that. And if we go back to UPST, I mean, take a look at this day. Let's see what volume this traded. So volume was 21 million shares at about 100. So that's a lot of money to throw around. That's not real retail buyers. That's not your Aunt Sally, Aunt Kathy, all of that. Although it could be Kathy Wood, but this is institutional accumulation here. And then on pullbacks, I want to see low volume because I don't want to see distribution signs by those same institutions. So if something moves up on high volume and then a pullback here on low volume, this isn't a great example, but if there's a gradual pullback to the 21 EMA, a low volume, tight price action, that's ideal. And that's what I'm always looking for. Let's see. Steven asks, can you talk a little bit about your macroeconomic outlook? Do you look at the PE ratio at all? With the recent market focus on bond yields and inflation, there's a clear effect on high PE growth stocks. Well, I don't look at PE ratios at all. Upstart 999, and that didn't stop it from going from 61 all the way to almost more than 150 in just a few days. Zoom had a PE ratio over 1,000 before its huge run in 2020. I don't look at that at all. And William O'Neill in his research decided that was not a factor at all in the greatest winners of all time. And in fact, a lot of the greatest winners of all time started with very high PE ratios. So in terms of growth stocks, I don't consider that at all. In terms of my macroeconomic outlook, I know that the Fed is still doing a lot of QE. That's kind of all I care about. I don't look at bond yields, all of that. I just kind of trade the price action in the leading stocks that I'm interested in. Let's see. John asks a question here. Do you wait until the end of the day to get stopped out of position, or do you just sell in the morning? When it hits my stop, I get out. I will be watching closely and setting alerts to potentially get back in if it moves back through where I sold it, and then I'll make a decision end of day. On a gap down, I will sell. No, I will follow my stop no matter what. Stops are there for a reason. They're there to protect you overall. And I always honor my stop loss. Jack asks, is there a way in Marketsmith to systematically search for such nice technical patterns to form a long list? They've got a bunch of different built-in screens here. Breakaway gaps, near pivot. So if we go to this, you can see all these stocks are near pivot. ENTG is one I'm watching as well. It's on my universe list. It's not on my focus list. This looks nice. APAM looks decent. Tech looks decent. QRVO, another semiconductor name. So they have a awesome pattern recognition that will find stocks near a potential pivot. So if that's what you're looking for, they definitely have that. Jim asks, do I have any concerns over IBD saying market is resuming its uptrend versus Dr. Wish still having his GMI signal being red? Definitely, that's kind of two of the main things that determine how I view the market. But in terms of kind of my thoughts on that, I'm kind of following the IBD way at this point because there are a bunch of kind of growth stock leaders acting well. If there wasn't really any setups, semiconductors were still having a lot of trouble here. I'd be a little bit more defensive. But at this point, stuff is working, and we'll see what happens next week. Everything is confirmed by price action. So if stuff doesn't fall through next week, then I will once again be a little bit more defensive. But until then, I'm looking to increase my exposure. Yeah, no problem, Jack. Happy to do it. As far as near-term investing, I hope I answered your question. Let me know if I didn't. I'll circle back. We've got a question here from CM Fan. Do I use Python to interact with my brokerage APIs? No, I do not. I sell manually. I do use Python for back testing, doing scans, all of that. I think it's very useful for that. But I do actually input manually my buys and sells. Awesome, Jim. Good to know. Let's see. Any more stocks that I should go over? I'd be happy to talk more about that. And we've got a question from TMC. How's it going, man? Always like your comments on my videos. Thanks for all the support. Yesterday I saw an old video you did on the IBD stock screener. Awesome. Any other tricks? I'll make an updated video with a few more scans I like on that. I think it's a great piece of software. Marketsmith is very expensive. It's a high quality tool, but definitely the IBD stock screener, if you can't afford Marketsmith, is a great way to find great CAN-SLIM names. Yeah, Facebook is a good one because this is actually on my universe list, even though it's kind of an institutional favorite, large cap here, but it's been showing a lot of RS recently and pulling back nicely to the 21. So it is in a longer term base with a standard pivot of 304.67, but it's showing a little bit of something here, and we'll see if it can kind of confirm through all these pivots and challenge these all-time highs. But definitely something I'm watching. I don't know if I would take up a position. It depends on what the other options out there. But obviously, nice growth in fund ownership. All the high-quality funds are in it. And for a large cap, I mean, really strong growth here and decent estimates. So this is something I'm watching, especially in terms of determining the market conditions. This and all the other FANG names definitely plays a huge part in how the QQQ does and the overall NASDAQ. Sid, I did talk about W already, so you can rewind the video and see that. Manoli, I also went over ABNB and DKNG at the beginning, so in the replay you can catch that. Yeah, Tesla and TDOC, let's go over that. Tesla is always a highly demanded one, so this is kind of like Futsu. It's a very strong stock, power move here, but it's below a declining 50 and 21. So in my view, it's in a downtrend. It is potentially forming a higher low here if it can confirm upwards, but you know, the 200-day is beckoning a little bit here. The RS line is in a downtrend. It's not one of the strongest stocks in the market, and I'll be focused on the strongest stocks and the strongest groups. Now, if your cost basis is down here, if it was me, there's no reason to sell, or at least not hold a core position of it because it is a strong stock. Great estimates, great growth numbers down here as well. But in terms of new positions, I'm not focused in on it that too much. So the other one was TDoc. Let's take a look at that. I know this is a popular one on FinTwits, and I actually owned it from here. I built up a position, wrote it up here, sold a little bit on the downside reversal, and then my last bit here on this day as it broke these three bars here. It tried to find support at the base pivot, but then broke that, another kind of red flag. Broke the 200-day on volume, another red flag, and now is finding support near the bottom of the base. So once again, not really in my wheelhouse. This isn't kind of my preferred setup under the 200-day, 50, and 21. I like buying strong stocks in strong uptrends on low relative volume pullbacks. That's kind of what I like to do. Let's see. Chewy. Let's do Chewy. That's a good suggestion. So here we go. Similar to a lot of former leaders, we've got a pretty significant drop here from 120 to 75. So once again, not the strongest stocks, not one of the strongest stocks in the market. If you flip this upside down, it would look a lot better. This is kind of a bear flag at this point, near the 200-day moving average. So definitely a spot if you're a longer term investor and your cost basis is down here or even down here, to definitely potentially pick up shares. But I don't like this huge break of the 10-week on above average volume. It just needs to form a nice longer term base. This is really the left side of a potential base, and something like this might be expected, maybe a few more weeks of sideways, and then potentially start upward back towards 100. Dominic asks, do I enter position with a full or half position? At this moment, I'm starting with half positions just because my recent trades I've either been stopped out for a small gain or a loss. So my recent trading hasn't performed too well. So I'm lowering my position size, practicing progressive exposure, and I'll scale it back up to full positions once really the market confirms through and a lot of my recent trades have worked out. Hey Max from Hong Kong, awesome. Thanks for tuning in. ABNB, that's a great suggestion. So this almost made my focus list. It's got some pivots here. It's a little bit of a short and stubby base, and I don't like how deep and V-shaped this is. But overall, it's a strong stock. It just moved out of a stage 1 cup with handle. Great estimates for 2021. Great last earnings, up 971%. Not really the strongest fund ownership increase, although it is increasing, and you've got no high quality funds. So a little bit lower quality, but definitely something I'm watching. I think they are related to 5G, and they're obviously in a very top group as well. Group RS rating is A+. That's awesome. And the composite rating is a 99. So definitely something to consider, but not kind of my top tier this week. Farzan asks, how can people who aren't subscribed to IBD tell what stage the market is in? Well, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's a decent way. I post a stock market outlook video every single weekend and post updates rather on Twitter throughout the week. Let's see. Jason, I talked about W earlier in the video. I guess on the replay you can move it back and watch that part. Jose asks, QQQ below the 50. Yeah, that's definitely concerning to me. My best performance is when the QQQ and the NASDAQ in general is trending above the 21 EMA, which is trending above the 50. That's when we're in a nice kind of power trend if it meets those conditions. And this is when a lot of breakouts are working, pullbacks are working, and the overall market is on the side of tech. When we're below those moving averages like we are right now, it's a lot choppier, it's more volatile, liquidity has left the market a little bit, and it's just harder as a breakout trader to trade back here. And I know a lot of people experienced that over the past month and a half. So ideally, this starts a new uptrend, retakes those moving averages, and breaks out in the coming weeks. I'd love to see that, but overall stuff is working. The SPX, actually, let's go here. There we go. Overall, the SPX is right near all-time highs. So there is a lot of stocks working, just not a lot of tech stocks. So either you can kind of switch your focus to more growth, names that aren't necessarily tech, like SAM, which is Boston Beer Company, or you can kind of wait it out, wait for those bases to build, and then potentially enter those once again. let's see. Pins. Yeah, let's talk about that because that's one of the kind of former leaders that is still building at a base. I don't think this stock is done just because it's such a new stock with a great kind of earnings runway, but it's definitely building a longer term base here and needs it after such a strong move from 37. So it moved up from 37 all the way up to almost 90. It's almost a triple, and now it's based pulled back from 89 to 60, and this pullback, I don't know if Panic Rec will pick it up, but about a 30% drop here. And now it looks a little bit weak, maybe a double bottom here, undercut of 60 and reclaim, or maybe it just kind of builds out this and then potentially forms a cup shape. But definitely once this recovers and retakes those key moving averages, I'll be looking to get into this because I think it's a great company. Like I said, very strong estimates, great earnings, great fund ownership. And once this kind of shapes up, forms that right side, I'll be interested in the stock. David, I talked about UI just a few moments ago, but we'll put that in and pop that in because I think it's a good thing to cover. This for me is too extended. If you missed it, you missed it. There's no FOMO allowed. I only want to buy within 2% of the pivot. If I missed it, I'll wait for the pullback. When the 21 EMA is able to catch up again, that's when I'll look to enter a stock. If this is going to go to 800, 1,000, there's going to be so many opportunities to get in that are nice, low risk, high reward. Right now, there's high likelihood that it will pull back somewhat, try to shake people out. People will take profits who bought this breakout and have nice gains. And we'll see kind of if the buyers are able to push this higher through 400. But at this point, for me, for my style, it's too extended and too risky. Let's see. Let's go to TDC, Teradata Corp, because that's kind of a similar vein as Box and Dropbox. And you can see it's fine support at the 50, but I don't like the look of these 2 days, finishing right near the lows. And it is a pretty deep base from 60 all the way down to below 40. So yeah, this isn't really on my focus. I think this base needs work. Like I said, it could easily spend a bunch more weeks forming this out, or just kind of collapse from here. It's there's not too much shape here. It's not a classic base. So for me, this isn't really on my radar. Joshi says RBLV. This is a good one. So I've been watching this because it was holding this previous green line, but last week it broke that, unfortunately, on this day here. But overall, it is staying above the 50. If you can shape up here, this drop wasn't on too high volume, so maybe it starts kind of a base here, a flat base. This high is at 55.83, and if it can form a base here between that and 40, that could and chop around here, shake out all those weak holders who rode this up here. I think that would be very constructive and could potentially set up a new uptrend once it really breaks out to all-time highs. But at this point, it's in the chop zone, it's in the turbulence zone, and we'll see what happens. But I love the volume here. Great earnings, great group here, 18,197. It's a disruptor. Not the greatest estimates for 2021, but good estimates for 2022, and we'll see what happens with the stock. Yeah, no problem, Marshall. Let's see, TXN. I think that's Texas Instruments. Yeah, breakout. So like I said, a lot of traditional growth isn't working, but there's still breakouts happening. Good earnings, decent estimates, fund ownership, high quality funds in there as well. So definitely one you could play, but kind of like UI, this is a little bit too extended for me to buy at this point. Let's see. Jaden asked, do I have any advice for beginners? I take one look and get overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. I think a great place to start is by reading How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill. I have a video on my channel called Top 5 Books to Read for Beginners. Start there. And also, I just posted recently a video, kind of an introduction to Can Slim, that I'll link on Twitter just after I end the stream. So I think that's a great place, a great introduction to get started. Let's see. A lot of people are asking for Target and UPS, so let's talk about those. Yeah, so nice longer term base. Stage 1 looks pretty good. Not really any growth estimates here, but decent numbers here. Fund ownership increase in Fidelity Contra Fund with a position. So not really my priority, but there's a pivot right here at 168.68, and eventually a challenge of 175. So definitely playable. I'm focusing more on the growth space, but definitely if you like this type of stock, you could go for that. And Target's been very strong up the right side of this double bottom base, and a nice breakout on Friday. So once again, if it pulls back to the pivot, I would potentially be interested, but I like how it just retook 200, and we'll see if it can confirm to the upside. Yeah, let's see AMD, because this is actually weaker than most semis, but if it starts moving up as well, that would just boost the overall semi space. Same with Nvidia, but this is still forming a longer term base. I like how slow and gradual this decrease is. I don't like how it didn't find support at the 200 though, but we'll see how this does in the coming weeks and months. And going back to Nvidia, this as well, forming a base here. It broke down from the stage 3 base, but it is finding support at the 200, so it actually looks a little bit better than AMD with respect to that. Nice growth in earnings here. Great estimates for 2022, 2023, and you know the whole deal with the fund ownership and high quality funds. So looks pretty good apart from its RS and RS rating. Let's see. So Dennis says, let's go back to the AMD chart. He would like to see AMD undercut this previous low. Yeah, I would agree. That would shake out a lot of people. Maybe give a nice reset, and maybe can move up from there. John asks Vuzi and FNKO. So definitely very choppy here. Not really any tight action where I could get involved. This is probably the last pivot that I would consider. With respect to FNKO, I believe this moved up on NFT news, but once again, very extended from the 21 EMA, 50 SMA. Nice estimates for 2021. Fund ownership is pretty flat and no high quality funds. So I'm not really focused on this one too much, although it is in a top group. Let's see, we've got IIPR. Let's take a look at that. So weed is a kind of group move theme that I'm watching. IIPR is a way to play that in the real estate kind of area. But once again, this is basing along with a lot of the prior growth leaders, but definitely actionable through this tight action. See if we can retake the 21 and 50, 200, and then finally all-time highs. But once again, it just kind of needs a base here, in my view. Let's talk about Zoom. I see a message about that. So overall, it's decreased a lot. A nice longer-term base. We'll see if it can move up from here. I tried playing it off this day and add a little bit on the breakout, but got stopped out here. So we'll see what happens. I'd love to see it get back above the 250. I'm trying to not focus too much on prior leaders in 2020, simply because they've already moved 200, 300, 500%, need time, need longer term bases. I'm trying to kind of focus and find new leaders. And Zoom, I think, just needs a lot of time. Despite the great fundamentals, the technicals are saying it's not under significant accumulation. And I want to be buying the strongest stocks in the market that are showing very significant accumulation. And funds are kind of buying them hand over fist, like what was happening with Zoom way back in early 2020 and throughout that strong uptrend. All right, guys, I think I'm going to do just a few more and then call it a day. Let's see. Google and Netflix. Let's take a look at those FANG stocks. So first up, we've got Google. Nice flat base, very tight here, only a 7% depth. And this was holding up very well compared to a lot of the other FANG stocks. And it's right at the 50-day. So definitely potentially actionable if this is kind of your speed. Right above 2,000. Great earnings growth. Nice estimates for 2021, 2022. Fund ownership increases and a whole bunch of high quality funds. So it looks pretty good. RS rating isn't superb. This is a slower mover. But among the FANG stocks, this looks pretty good. And definitely looks a lot better than NVIDIA did. And let's bring up Netflix. And we'll do Amazon just for kicks after this. So not huge growth numbers the past 2 quarters. It is pulling back near the bottom of this base and formed a kind of flat base on flat base here. Stage 2B, standard pivot 593.29. finding support near 500, good estimates for 2021, 2022. Nice fund ownership increases, high quality funds in there as well. But once again, this is just forming a longer term base, going sideways, and not showing super strong action so far. And I guess we'll round it out with doing Amazon. Similar to AMD, well, not AMD, NVIDIA, all of that. This is forming a longer term base. And I'd like to see it undercut this level and move up, retake the 250. And that would boost the overall QQQ as well if the big caps really start getting involved. Let's see. Let's do one last ticker here. So list them out if you've got any that you'd like me to cover. I see you, Joshy. You don't have to. Please don't spam. Let's see. Let's do skills. Let's do skills. So this is one that I was interested in, but it's really just kind of fallen apart here. So something that's 50% off its highs needs to increase 100% just to get back to break even. And there's a lot of overhead supply along the way. And especially if it's in this kind of sharp channel here, there's a lot of distribution here. This is not accumulation. In order for there to be accumulation, there has to be high up days, choppiness, then it starts moving up as the buyers take control. And skills at this point isn't showing it just yet. Maybe it does it at the 200-day. Maybe it falls all the way to the prior base here. But regardless, this isn't really my preferred setup. I want to see strong action, strong support, strong uptrend, and skills isn't showing it just yet. So yeah, it's kind of my take on skills. I was interested if it could potentially hold this level, move up here, retake the 21 and 50. But at this point, it's just in a downtrend for me. So I think I'll just call it there. Thank you guys all for showing up. Remember to leave a like down below on the video if you did enjoy it. And also let me know here and on Twitter if you'd like me to do more streams like this, go through tickers. I watch this live. I'd be happy to do that if enough people are interested. And yeah, have a great rest of your evening, everybody. And best of luck next week. And hopefully it's a strong one and we see a fall through on the NASDAQ finally. That'd be awesome to see. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Great to see all your nice messages and interact with you guys like this. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. See ya.